Well, welcome to our Ask the Expert series today. Today we have with us Eddie Biggers, who is a senior care placement specialist. Welcome to the show, Eddie.
All right. Thanks. Hello, everybody.
Eddie, we have a lot of clients who are senior citizens, and as they're aging up, the issue of moving to an assisted living or independent living facility frequently comes up, and the kids frequently will spot that as well. And I hope you take a few minutes with us today and answer some of the questions that are out there. So thank you for
Absolutely.
joining us. So what is the most common scenario when you see someone needing to move to an assisted living or an independent living facility?
Well, I tell you what, that's a loaded question, but a great question. The most common, though, I'd say is usually, people want to keep their parents or their spouse or their loved one at home as long as possible. But what ends up happening is there's usually an event, a major life event. Sometimes it's a stroke or a fall or an episode of dementia that's maybe progressing rapidly. And they find themselves in sort of a crisis mode a lot of times, believe it or not. And so they're either in the hospital or they go to a short-term rehab facility and it's unsafe for them to go back home. Or they've tried it at home with 24-hour caregivers, and the cost of having that um, is just wildly expensive, and it's only getting more expensive. So they're in this like financial crisis of what do I do right now?
Mhm.
Um, it's very rare that an independent living move is in crisis, right? I'll piggyback off that though and say that 90% of our move-ins to independent living, you know what they say? We should have done this sooner. So it's interesting. So there's a lot to that question, but I hope I answered some of that.
Sure. So when people move, they make the decision move to independent living or assisted living. What's the biggest mistake that you see people making?
When people move to a place, what's the biggest mistake is I'd say is probably mm, one of the mistakes that is often made is choosing a place based on the decor.
Mhm.
If we're talking about care, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, there are some phenomenal places that provide great care that look phenomenal as well.
Mhm.
But sometimes people only choose a place because of how pretty it is, right? When we're talking about care and caring for their loved one, they need to look into the meat and potatoes of why they need to be there. And it's the care, it's the tenure and staff, it's the activities that are going on in the building. If it's a brand new shiny place, but there's no activity or their staff turnover is through the roof, then it kind of that's they find that to be a mistake that they made.
So how do you guys figure that out, and how do you help families make those determinations?
Well, I always tell people our biggest um, reference that we have for finding the best places are clients that we've placed, right? So we're constantly in communication with people we've placed in the past to figure out the good, bad, and ugly of each placement we've done to know who's really got it going on and who's not, right? So I would say we really do a good job of tapping into our clients that we've placed and staying in touch with them to know are they providing a good service to your mom or not? And then also just kind of knowing the industry, we know which places have let go of five executive directors over the last 6 months. We just kind of know that stuff being in the industry.
Mhm.
Um, we look for things like when you walk in on a tour, you know, if there's an activity calendar, a lot of times they'll have them posted in the elevator, for example. Oh, at 2 o'clock today, we have Elvis coming in and performing.
Mhm.
And I look at my watch and it's 2:10 and there's no Elvis.
Mhm.
Things like that. We look for little things that maybe the typical client doesn't know to look for them.
Mhm.
And we just try and advise and encourage people to do even further research than I'm giving them. But yeah, we know the industry, we know what's out there, and I think our client feedback is our best source for that.
Excellent. What's the next biggest problem that you see with regard to people choosing a care facility?
Well, honestly, and I don't know that this is any less important than any other issue, but financially trying to pay for these.
Mhm.
It's a huge problem, you know. Long-term care insurance is sort of falling by the wayside, it seems. There's only a few and far between of those policies now. So I'd say paying for senior living has been a real challenge. Seeing how people, um, I don't know if it's generational or what. I don't know what's going on, but for some reason lately we have found that it's been more and more of a challenge in finding, people that can truly afford, these big new facilities that are 6 to 8 thousand a month.
What kind of ranges are you seeing from the low side to the high side? What are you seeing?
Um, Anywhere from on the low side, 3,000 to 4,000 a month is kind of the average on the like low to middle side, and then I'd say, you know, um, 5 to 7,000 is sort of the average cost for like a really like a nice high end place.
Mhm.
And then of course there's some that are below the 3,000, and then there's absolutely some that are north of the 7,000. But 3 to 7,000 is the range that I kind of give for like the average cost. And really a lot of that is dependent on the type of room that somebody wants.
Mhm.
Maybe a studio versus a one bedroom, or even a shared room versus a studio sometimes.
Okay. So we've talked about some of the problems that may be out there. What is a hidden opportunity that people miss out on when it comes to selecting a facility?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest opportunity is, I'll give you an example. If let's say there's a husband and a wife, okay, and let's say that the husband unfortunately passes away, and then the wife is at home.
Mhm.
She's at home alone, right? I think the biggest thing that senior living in general has to offer is just the engagement and socialization with others.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lot of studies out there that say that engagement and socialization helps slow down the progression of dementia and Alzheimer's. Um, but take dementia and Alzheimer's out of it. Some people just need companionship, you know? People like being in environments where people are like them, around others that are like them. Maybe uh, other spouses have gone through the same thing. Um, so I think the biggest opportunity, I don't want to say miss because people take advantage of it and go into places when they need it, is people always forget about the socialization. I always talk about that when people are weighing their options between a home care agency
Right.
and going into a place. I love home care agencies, don't get me wrong. We work with several,
Mhm.
but the biggest difference is going to be the engagement with others.
So it's interesting you say that. Frequently, we have clients who will say, "Hey, I want to stay home. That's really my goal. If something happens, I want to stay home. I want to stay home." And it's nice that you pointed out the home agency as a possibility. But I think you're pointing out that the socialization aspect may be missed is also very critical. With the aging parent, the example you gave, husband passed, mom's at home, she's not doing so well. Home health care is not providing it for her. She's missing out on socialization. If she does choose to go to an assisted living facility versus staying at home, are you noticing any impact on the adult children who ordinarily would have to step up in that situation?
Yeah, there's relief beyond relief.
Mhm.
Um, Usually my clients, whenever you hear me talk about a client of mine,
Mhm.
believe it or not, I'm usually talking about the adult children. Of course, the seniors themselves are my client,
Mhm.
but the people that I encounter the most are going to be the adult children,
Mhm.
and they're the people I'm touring with when I go all around and tour places with people. I'm touring with the adult children, and they are usually left tearfully grateful that they are now in a position where somebody is professionally taking care of them, but also in a place that they have picked out. With a lot of times what'll happen is I'll actually tour maybe 4 or 5 places with the son or daughter, and that we narrow down for their parents so that the parents aren't overwhelmed on these tours of 4 or 5 places.
Mhm.
We might only go to 2 places with the actual parents. So there's a lot of legwork done by the kids, but then they're so relieved when the biggest compliment ever is when a son or a daughter goes to visit their mom or dad,
Mhm.
and their mom or dad is like, "Can you come back? I'm busy. I'm playing cards here with my friends."
Yeah, that's great to hear. I know a lot of people are worried that, hey, we're just going to be dumped into some facility and never checked on again. And if there's a lot of activities that are taking place there, then that also, in my experience, makes it so that the kids don't feel guilty not being there all the time. And then when they do come, it can be a much higher quality visit when they
Right.
are engaged in bringing the grandkids there. All right, so you're an insider. Any other insider tips or secrets that people should know about the assisted living or senior care industry?
Well, I mean, this is not for me. What I'm about to say is not a plug for my company, but it is a plug for my type of company.
Mhm.
I at least want people to know that there are people that are in my position. I'm friends with all my competition, so if you guys were to choose another one, that's fine. When I say you guys, I mean the clients that might be listening.
Mhm.
Um, People need to know that there are hands-on agents that will go with people to help find the right place at no cost, right? We're all placed, or we're all contracted with these assisted livings and independent livings. So we're paid a referral fee by the place. That allows us to operate at no cost to our clients.
Mhm.
People need to know that that service exists. That's sort of an insider thing, I'll say, right?
Mhm.
A biggest challenge is just getting the word out there that our type of business even exists, right? A lot of times when I talk to somebody, they didn't even know that our type of business existed, and they're thrilled to hear about it.
Mhm.
And so I would just recommend using somebody to go with them and vet these places out, because when they do it alone, they're more overwhelmed. Google will tell you everything you want to hear. People will just say, "Come on in for a tour," even though it's $2,000 over their budget. They might not know that. So I recommend hiring, or not hiring, but using an agency to help find a place. I would also say, you know, um, don't always go by the shiny. We talked about this earlier, right? The new, the shiny, the bells and whistles. If somebody is requiring a lot of care, you always want to make sure that, even though it's a beautiful place, you want to make sure that it's are they gonna be able to transfer my mother into a wheelchair and escort her to dining?
Mhm.
This big, you know, huge campus of a place. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, as far as like other tips, I mean, I can go on and on. I don't know how much time you
Mhm.
have.
Well, this has been great. Thank you. And it's interesting to note that you did mention the fees, in that whether a
Mhm.
person shops on their own or whether they use an agency like yours, when they ultimately contract with a facility, they're going to pay the same amount. So your fees are
Right.
not out of pocket expense by anyone, and it certainly doesn't drive the family's expenses up to hire a service like yours. All right. That being
Correct.
said, what's your service area? Where do you cover?
All of Metro Atlanta and beyond, right? We're in Georgia, so we can operate anywhere from, I don't know, Chattanooga, the border of Tennessee, all the way down to Valdosta. But I'll be honest, I mean, we are heavily focused in the major metro Atlanta counties: Cobb, Fulton, Gwinnett, Hall, Forsyth, you know, Cherokee, um, down even into like DeKalb County, and really anywhere. We've got a whole team of people that all live in different areas, kind of intentionally to cover and become experts in each area geographically. So um, there's nowhere we can't go.
Great. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So you can either call me personally at 678 346-8550. That's my cell phone number. We also have Melody Juno, who I know that was your point of contact. I have to pull up her cell phone number. I don't have numbers memorized like I used to. Her number is 678-468-6096. And, between her and I, and we have a whole other team of people, I would start with those two people, those two phone numbers, and we'll definitely help from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Ed. I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and share these tips. And thanks again for your time.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
All right, bye.